to me, at the end of the day, when we're all in the room, I mean, why do 100% of relationships fail just in general, right? It's lack of communication. So even if, I'm talking to a coach, or I'm talking to the head coach or whatever, and he's talking to the next guy, like he has a separate side meeting over there, side meeting over here, he get 3 different opinions, right? But and then of course he's going to make the decision. But it's like, if we're all sitting in the same room, number one is everybody knows how everybody else feels. Number two is everybody gets the opportunity to, like Russ was talking about, right? Like bring your video, bring your analytics, bring, defend your quote unquote position or whatever, right? Because this isn't about credit for me for that or whatever. It's about supporting the guy who takes home the win or the loss. And, rather than take home more wins, I think we're all chasing taking home fewer losses, right? Because the losses sting a little bit more. And so, to me, like that's everything. You know what I mean? Like that's huge. And I've been lucky to be on staffs where, disagreements have been encouraged in a positive way. And then, when you leave that room, right, like, everybody's on the same page, you know what I mean? Like, and I think that's huge, right? Iron sharpens iron, but, we're all striving for the same thing, which is to obviously, like I said, fewer losses, but also ultimately we don't want to see that Ryder truck come around front of the house. You know what I mean? Like that's not fun, packing your stuff up and moving your whole family, which I've seemed to make a habit of. So if anybody has questions for me, otherwise that's about it. But I'll say one more thing too, just about player relationships, which I'm at the prep school level, it's a big time, like adult child deal. At the professional level, the big thing is you want to be friendly, not friends, right? We can break bread, but you in no way, shape, or form, want to be their friend, right? You want to always be able to provide critical feedback, right? So that doesn't mean I'm not going to go out and share a nice meal with Devin Booker, but what that does mean is, me and him, we're not hanging on like a social level like that, but like we have a close relationship to where, he's always going to respect what I have to say. And he's always going to, respect my opinion or search out my opinion. I think that's huge. When you cross that line, especially if you're a young coach, right, and closer you are in age to these guys, it's easy to cross that line. And like as GAs or, support staffers, right, when you guys are back in the locker room with the guys when nobody's around, of course, Carm, is everybody on your team happy over there? Everybody's playing 30 minutes and shooting 20 balls, right?
No, that's I thought Cody, you made some great points. Like when you become a head coach, the values of those meetings are so key. And as Russ was alluding to, when you have facts or you have information, like you want to have the most concise data or concise points, because my head is spinning. I just met with a senior vice president for alumni relations. I'm just doing admissions calls. Like I'm on Zoom calls almost all day, or phone calls, where I got I'm helping our admissions people try to recruit freshmen for an incoming class. We just had our biggest freshman class last year. Now, hey, let's send a message and have the next biggest class ever in Siena College, or surpass that, because of our recruitment of just students. And so helping them figure out what their messaging is. And they have something that's pretty cool, and you guys can all take note of this to your own programs, is, they call them fight clubs. So they have all of this data and all of the pertinent information for every person that either came to campus for a tour or that is a prospective student. And so from there, they have, what they're looking for in a college, and they actually build almost a recruiting profile for that one individual student. And then they attack that thing in this fight club with 3 other people. And so there's like, a group of 4 people, and there's 20 of those groups. So there's 80 people working on different fight clubs, and each person in that fight club is trying to come up with a branded message just for one student to come to Siena College. So think about that. Wow. If you brought that back to your recruiting, coordinator, your head coach. But, my biggest thing was, what you says, and I learned this a long time ago with Fran McCaffrey. We were playing Tim O'Toole when he was a head coach at Fairfield. And I was at Siena. I was the director of ops, made $3,000, no health benefits. my office was in a locker room with no windows, and it was actually an add-on to our locker room where the players changed. And he said, you guys were way too quiet on the bench tonight. Like, I want ideas. I want things like, the head coach, it's his basically up to him, his work, right, to disseminate all that information that gets thrown to him, to have a, more or less a strainer for pasta, and for whatever sticks is what, I'm going to go with. But I need to know, hey, we're coming up with a game plan. And if we're going to ice all these ball screens, well, what's their adjustment to that? And now we have to go over what that is. And so why didn't you come to me and just say, hey, coach, we're going to ice. Let's go over this, because this is their go-to action against ice when they can't come off that ball screen. So as Russ was saying, have the answer, have the solution before the question's even asked. So you can lead that head coach down those paths that you think are right. But now if there's a defensive coordinator, that's great. But if it's maybe brought up differently, you want to have that conversation, because maybe the assistant that has the scout has watched millions and millions of tape, and he knows, hey, 3 teams in the league guarded the ball screen this way, 2 teams guarded it this way. But you may have an assistant just throws an idea and says, hey, well, what about this? Well, do you want someone saying that idea when he's, doesn't really have that skin in the game because it's not his scout? Or should those assistants have already talked about that beforehand and said, hey, what about this? Hey, that's a good idea. Let's bring it to coach. You want to have that kind of camaraderie like you were talking about, and Russ was talking about not having silos. So there's so many different things that can happen in meetings too with how they're run. I try to have my guys not bring any cell phones into meetings. I want them all to be ready with, notepad, paper, and then have an agenda. Like, I'll send them an agenda sometimes, but also I want them to have an agenda, because they have me for 10 or 15 or 20 minutes, and I want to be able to get through everything that's on that list. And then I want them to say, hey, make sure you guys are adding to our call document that we have on a Google Doc for me to call. Like, I should be on the phone, especially at this time, with at least 15 high school coaches or AAU coaches from each of my assistant with guys they're recruiting. So that's 45 phone calls for me. But I'd rather have it organized so I can systematically go through all that. So there's so many different things you can get done in meetings and who's in charge of those meetings. But I just wanted to chime in, and I that sliding over a seat, and I think Q could probably address this too. But after games, man, and I try to work out every day. I'm a high energy guy. I try to run 3 miles every day, and especially on game day. But that gets my energy even. Like, if I don't work out, my energy is like your energy is, Cody. You know what I mean? Like, you could go and go and go, and it's like, you need something to kind of level you out so you're kind of thinking clear. And some people meditate. My meditation is when I run. And it gets me thinking clear. But there's so many different things you got to be able to think about and do. And then for me, I'm pretty organized, so that gives me that peace of mind to know, hey, everything's kind of compartmentalized, and I can kind of just focus on the here and now. So hope all that random tangent from me helps. All right.
Good stuff.
Appreciate you. Trey, you had a question?
Yeah, Cody, one question was, what percentage of practice is dedicated to offense and defense at Memphis? How was that this year?
Hey, this is the question. This is the question right here. I want to take a poll. Now, well, like, we were really good defensively, and as a lot of people love to point out, we quote unquote struggled offensively. And we were the highest turnover team in the history of the American Conference. Now, it wasn't every single day that it was like a 50-50 type split or anything like that. I tend to personally believe that a 50-50 split, is pretty accurate, because typically, you're either on offense or defense 50% of the time, right? As a math guy. But no, we were probably more defensively heavy in practice plans. That's something that, like, I'm going back and evaluating right now to talk to Coach about. Coach knows I'm an offensive guy. Everybody knows I'm an offensive guy. You ask Steve Donahue, tell you I've never played a defensive possession in my life. But the bottom line is too, like, where do we struggle? So I mean, I think that we did a lot of focus on player development within our practice, right? That's player development offensively and player development defensively. We did a lot of focus on, like, small-sided stuff. But again, I think probably if you're asking me what our best weeks were, we were probably teetering right on that line of, if I were to say it was we take like 100% scale, I would say 20% player development, 15% of that player development being offensive driven, 5% being defensive driven, and then 50-50 the rest offense defense. But again, I'm in the evaluation stage. Like I've literally gone through every one of our practice plans, and I'm reviewing the practice plan leading up to the game, and then which games do we play better in, you know what I mean, and trying to figure out like where can we trim the fat, like where do we need to invest more time. Obviously every team's different because we know our team's going to be different next year, right? But in the same sense, like Carm said, like I'm an organized type like him too, so like pretty anal about trying to connect the dots here on how we arrived at a good result or a bad result.
Yeah, and then one other thing, we really struggled with turnovers this year as well. I'm just curious if you had any thoughts on how you were going to try to fix that next year, other than having.
Oh man, yeah. So here's what I got for you, right? So I mean, we started doing push-ups and all this type of nonsense. I mean, my pecs got really, really nice and cut. Like like the underside had started to show a little bit, which was cool. Man, we turned the ball over 24 times in a game that we won by 20. That makes no sense. Our opponent got 20 more shots than us, and we win the game. But it makes no sense. Like, and I'm trying to wrap my head around the math of it all. It just doesn't make any sense. But when I really broke it down, this was the interesting factors, right? So here I've got the numbers right here if you guys want to hear this, and then I kind of got one of my thoughts for a possible solution, and then you guys can tell me if I'm an idiot or not. All right, so here are the numbers. Okay, so overall, our offensive efficiency rating out of the quote-unquote Power 7 conferences, which has like roughly 90 teams or so included in this data sample, we were 74th with an OER of 96.6. Now, if you take out our turnovers in the first 5 seconds of the shot clock, that OER jumps up to 108.51, which is good for 10th, right? Now, if you take our turnovers from the first 5 seconds of the shot clock out and our turnovers in the last 5 seconds of the shot clock out, it jumps to 114.6, which would be first, right? So I'm trying to analyze those turnovers in and of themselves, right? First 5 second turnovers, right? We just took possession of the ball. That's a bad outlet pass, or that's an outlet pass and the next pass turnover, right? So those are the ones that I'm going back and breaking down. And if you want to play fast, which we played at the 6th fastest pace in the country, right? The caveat to playing fast is you're going to have more turnovers. But more volume doesn't necessarily mean we want to increase the rate of turnovers, right? So the percent of our whole, theoretically, we should try to keep the same as a team that's playing at a moderate pace. Because as we pump more possessions in, hopefully we're getting more shots. That's the whole goal. More possessions, more shots, more points. And so, for us right now, we have to be better at outlet passes. Some of our best possessions where we actually didn't outlet the ball. So coach is also cool with the multiple push guy mentality, which is really like an NBA thing, right? Where you're not outletting looking for the point guard, right? Miami Heat, Bam Adebayo catches the rebound, right? Now he's like kind of initiating the break. So it's not turn and outlet, right? It's bust out, then pass ahead, right? And so whether that's a 1 or 2 dribble bust out followed by a pass ahead, right? That's a little bit different than just like the quick turn and goes, because a lot of ours were really bad. And of course we could do, the Howard Garfinkel 5-star drill, throw it off the board and, chin it and pivot and pass. But, the big thing that I picked up from the NBA in general and from Mike D'Antoni is that kind of the more free flow that you can give and the more you can teach out of concepts, not sets, and the more interchangeability that you have. We talk about positionless, right? It's kind of like the term culture, right? But the more you can really truly be that, the better, right? So for us, if I'm making a recommendation to coach, which I'm not to that stage yet, at this particular point in time, when you factor that turnover information in with the fact that in the first 10 seconds of the shot clock, we shot 58%, in the second 10 seconds of the shot clock, we shot 45%, and in the last 10 seconds of the shot clock, we shot 32%. Our whole thing is we are incentivized to play fast. Like our numbers for us say play fast, that's when we're playing our best. But if we can reduce those turnovers in the first 5 seconds and we can find a shot, even if we don't shoot 58%, even if that drops to 55% or 50% even, but we can up our volume of shots by at least 5 shots a game, right? Now what we're going to be able to do is we're going to be able to really pump up and increase our overall offensive efficiency, which is huge. Why do we want to stay out of the last 10 seconds? for us, it all turned into isolation basketball. I'm sure every coach on here is going to say, like, under 10, we're going to switch everything anyways, right? And now it's like gap, contain, contest, and if you do those things, what types of shots do you end up forcing, right? You end up forcing intermediate off the dribble mid-range, right? Which is the worst kind of shot in the game, right? So, for us, this information to me is crucial. Now that leads me to my recommendations. My recommendation is, right, looking forward to next year. Obviously, it's based on personnel to an extent here, but anytime our let's just say like our position 5, we don't call him the 5, we call him the trigger. So anytime our trigger man catches off the glass, right, I'm a big proponent. This is like more like an NBA thing too. Again, it's like a 1-2 dribble bust out followed by a pass ahead, right? Of course, like if there's a guard right there, give it to him. You know what I mean? But less focus on the traditional, pivot to the outside and throw over your head, outlet, free throw line extended back to the baseline. Probably less off of that. You know what I mean? Because that kind of tends to get a little bit more forced. Like, can that guard get to that side? You know what I mean? Where would we rather have the guard if the rebound's coming on the right side of the floor and your quote unquote point guard's on the left side of the floor? Would you rather have him just run to the corner there? You know what I mean? Like, and get ahead of the action, right? Rather than have to loop across to make himself available for that outlet. Because naturally you're usually going to have some semblance of floor balance on its own. And so it's like a soccer concept, right? Is anybody here soccer fans? I don't know. I didn't see the video, right? You can raise your hand, right? So there's a concept of good overlaps and bad overlaps, right? And so like my wife played soccer. She was really, really good. She's an unbelievable athlete. But, and then obviously living in Europe, like I got big into soccer. And so like, the overlaps that you're looking for are like strategic overlaps, like within your formations. The overlaps that you don't want are ones that basically clog space and take up time, right? Not that soccer, you have some serious time element, but the same concept when we apply it to basketball is if I have a player over here and I'm running like a numbered break and he's got to get to the left corner versus the right corner, or my four-man has to go to this particular spot, that takes up time, so it slows you down. And if we say that we want to get our shot quicker, right, and every second counts, so we don't want to waste time. And then 2, what it does, it allows the defense to get set, which is the reason why we're trying to push in the first place, attack the defense in transition. So for us right now, and this is kind of, again, like the NBA concept is middle third of the floor is going to be for your trigger man. So like Bam Adebayo can bust out in the middle third. He can own it. NBA, it's really nobody that's Philly's actually the only team I think that is going to allow the ball handler in the middle of the floor. So the middle is the no-go zone, it's the no-fly zone, right? And so basically when the shot goes up, the opponent usually is going to have some semblance of their floor balance. So your guys are going to be matched up really, usually it's not going to be like 4 guys on one side and then 1 guy. So it's kind of like everybody, organically finds these spots, deep corners, wide slots. The runway right here, the middle third is for your trigger man who's going to initiate your screening actions. And so my recommendation to coach is obviously whichever guard gets it, he pushes it, right? Early pitch ahead, throw the ball across half court, rather dribble at half court. But, I'm hopeful that next year when you watch Memphis, you won't see an offense that has a point guard or a shooting guard or a power forward or a small forward. We'll just have 4 dudes out there in a trigger man. And that's kind of what we went to at the end of the year, and that was when we had our most success. And also maybe still do push-ups if we turn it over. Because Damian Ball is driving me nuts, Chris.
Cody, quick question for you. I can attest to your numbers not making sense. We played y'all last year in our first year, and y'all beat us 60, and we turned you over 33% of the time. So y'all either turned it over or scored, and we still got beat 60. But from a offensive standpoint, what are some innovative teams that you would recommend guys on here that can look at?
So here's the thing, right? So this is something that that is astonishing to me, right? So as coaches, I'm telling you, our habits and our tendencies are to fall back and teach what we know, right? It's always you teach what you know. Mm-hmm. You teach what you're comfortable with. But the great coaches are somehow, some way able to alter their DNA from season to season. Like it's remarkable, right? Eric Spoelstra is he's remarkable, right? I'll tell one quick story too. So we all get fired, and I get a text message, and it's like this. I mean, it's a long paragraph message about, you know, man, you did a great job this year, and you know, you're tremendous at what you do. Da 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 da. At the bottom, it's just signed Spo. I'm like, what? I was like, the president text me or what? You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, you got to be kidding me. This dude took the time of his day to find my freaking phone number and send me a text after I got fired. You got to be kidding me. Who the hell am I? I'm nobody. And so, I mean, that just tells you the type of dude he is. But if you watch Miami Heat and you watch how they have changed from like, you know, the big three to only having like Dwayne, right, to 2 years ago when Dragic, or actually more like 3 years ago when like Dragic was like in his prime ish, right, and they still had Hassan Whiteside, to now with Bam Adebayo. I mean, we're talking, it's a totally different thing. It's incredible. They're really good. True positionless basketball, Milwaukee Bucks. Maybe we can't all do it. Very simple stuff, but it's really how they teach it. You know, they've got a really, really great staff over there. I mean, you're going to see Robin Lopez, either of the Lopez twins run into the corners. You're going to see DiVincenzo running the trail spot, but their trail spot is their screener spot, right? So if it's DiVincenzo, he's the trigger man now. So they're really interesting. I love them. You know, Brad Stevens has continued to evolve. As we all know, he's a great ATO coach. But if you watch a lot of their, we call them Corver screen actions, their quick high-wide pin downs, no longer in the deep corner, the slot pin, right? They've got a whole, we call them Corver screens. They've got a really good series there, and I love breaking them down. Sad to see my guy Kenny Atkinson get fired because, I mean, hell, you know, you want to talk about someone who was doing a fantastic job, right? Like, I mean, this dude was knocking it out of the park. But offensively, what they do is really good. Spraying the floor, a lot of really good stuff out of step ups. You know, it's interesting to see because in the NBA, coaches are either fervently I would say are either all in single tag or, you know, mostly like double tag stuff, right? You don't see a lot of coaches who are like single tag, double tag. Like Igor was big on trying to find, you know, the single tag situation. But Brooklyn's offense is almost entirely like double tags, and they do a lot of really cool stuff on the backside that I think is really good. But anyways, I'm long-winded, so so lock in on those teams and the Raptors. I mean, what am I talking about? Nick Nurse. I almost forgot one of the best. I mean, you should. This guy's a wizard, man. RGB Viper.
Joey, you had a question?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, sorry, my video's not working. So obviously you guys have like a lot of success like recruiting as a staff, and going back to like what Russ said is like, how do you not measure against each other whether you get James Wiseman to commit or like a walk-on to commit? Like how do you go about that as a staff? And like, I guess how does like your confidence waver? What do you guys like talk about to make sure that you guys are all on the same page?
So, I mean, I'm definitely not the guy to ask. I'll say this. I actually feel like a college coach today more than any other day, because yesterday we signed a kid and like I was involved. So that is like huge news. You guys realize this? Like, you know what I mean? For me, because it was like, man, I haven't recruited anybody. I just rolled in here, man. No, I think, you know, again, man, I'm swinging and missing all over the place right here. So I don't know that I'm necessarily the guy to ask on that question, but I can tell you that, you know, Coach Hardaway does a great job of tag teaming these guys. Like, he never makes me feel like I'm on an island with that. He's generous with his time in terms of getting involved early with kids that we want. And to me, like, that's what I've noticed, I think is huge, especially with differentiating ourselves, like from some of these other schools, like we're going after these, you know, these high level, whatever, star kids or whatever is, you know, they are probably more needy than the others, I would assume. And so, although my guy Ryan Boyce is pretty needy though, right? But like, they are going to, you know, kind of want that head coach to get involved. The thing that I'm having an interesting time navigating is just how many dudes want these offers so they can put it on their social media. It drives me nuts. They're trying to use them as leverage instead of viewing them as like a blessing or like a actual opportunity then and now. It's like, why do you need an offer now? You know what I mean? Like, why? Tell me what the offer is going to do for you right now, other than you can put blessed to receive an offer by It's like, to me, it's just a bunch of nonsense. But, that's a cultural problem that I think we're all dealing with as coaches right now. So I think that as you recruit as a staff, it's great. We do have a really, like, Tony Madlock is the ultimate team player on a staff. You want to talk about a dude who, like, I don't know anything about college basketball, coming in and, like, just, like, showing me, like, hey, like, do this, do that, do this, don't do that, and then just being there, like, anytime that I need him. And, like, he gets on the phone with the kid's mom to talk about cost of attendance and, like, the meal plan situation. And, like, when I first time I heard that, I'm like, cost of attendance, I thought this was free. This is a scholarship? Like, what does that even mean? You know what I mean? And, like, he's talking about, oh, they're going to get this much for groceries on this time. And I'm like, okay, like, this is stuff I don't even know about. So to me, man, like, everybody's got to rely on everybody because everybody's got different strengths.
Appreciate it.
And so, yeah.
Anyone else got anything? Anyone? All right. Well, Q, Russ, and Top, I appreciate you guys being on. Top, you got anything? Lastly, parting word you want to say?
No, man, I love being on this stuff, and I mean, I'm kind of in this particular point. I'm sure, as like all of us are, right? Is like still that evaluation point, right? Self-evaluation point. And so, like, I've got questions. I mean, I'll be hitting a lot of the dudes that are on this call, like, hey, do you do study hall before or after practice? Like, and all these things. The last thing I'll say is this, and I'll throw this out there, and I'd love to hear, maybe while we're here, some input on this from you guys. And that is the way I view, like, a player's day, right, is like a fancy meal, right? Like, I'm a big steakhouse guy. I love going to a fancy meal, right? Especially when someone else is buying. There's really like several different types of ways the meal tends to go down for me. You guys can tell me how it goes down for you, right? We order the appetizers, we order the soup, we order the salad, we order the steak, we order the potatoes, and of course you got your dessert, right? Well, there are guys, to me, players, right, if you look at their day, who fill up on the appetizers and the soup, you know what I mean? Now, the practice, to me, should be the meat and potatoes of your day, but they're already full by the time they get there. You know what I mean? Like, their mind is full, their body's full, they're fatigued, or things of this nature, right? And of course they had class, right? And so that's, another element, right? But then there are also those types who they don't really dabble with the salad or the soup, and then they kind of eat a little bit of their steak because they're saving room for dessert, which is whatever's going to happen to me after the practice. You know what I mean? And so I'm always interested to hear and figure out, like, what's the best way to get the best out of these guys during that meat and potatoes portion, right? Because, and you can look at it two ways. Like, if, school is an element that's factored in. Some guys like to do pre-practice stuff. They do too much, they get tired, and then they suck in practice. You know what I mean? Other guys, they don't do pre-practice stuff as hard or whatever. And then, they give you a little bit of practice, but then after practice, they want to stay after and go hard. And so there's a caveat there, always trying to find, how can we get these guys to focus on the meat and potatoes? I don't know if, and I mean, for us, like, of course, this isn't Cornell. This isn't, we're not at some, like, high powered, I'm not going to lie and say, like, whatever. I mean, I'm not saying we don't have a good biology program, but saying our basketball program's got a better record these days. And so, for us, like, I'm like, man, can we practice during the middle of the day? Can we practice like at noon? Can we, like, manipulate our class schedule around that? Can we have study hall after practice? Things of that nature, right? How can we get more out of that 2 hours? If anybody's got any thoughts on that, I've got my notes open. Because I don't have the answer. I'm asking the questions.
I mean, Cody, I mean, for me, the biggest thing is class schedules. How is your class schedules built at Memphis? So, like, do you want your guys taking night classes? At Siena, it's a night classes once a week for 3 hours. Some of my guys can't do that. They're worse off in that class, and they'll get a worse grade. Then it's like, when are you traveling to these classes, first semester or second semester? If they're second semester and only night classes are on Thursday, well, we have to leave. So they're always going to miss that Thursday class. So there's so many different variables. And then it's like, hey, do you have guys that, do better learning in 50-minute classes or an hour and 20-minute classes? So that depends on, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Tuesday, Thursday, to, what sections have the better pro athletic teachers, where their understanding of the obligation student athletes have. So, I mean, there's so many different variables. It's tough. And then, when does your women practice? Obviously, you guys have your own practice facility. I have to deal with, we have a practice facility and we have our women's gym. And for some reason, you know, and I love our women's program, but they like to practice in a practice facility instead of the facility they play their games in, just because they want to say they have a practice facility too. So now I have to figure out, hey, are we doing, you know, 1 to 3 or 1 to 4? Or are we doing, you know, 12 to 3? And then, you know, can you build it around recruiting? You know, so in your area, you know, local high school is big. Can you have earlier practices to get coach to stop at a practice and a high? So, you know, there's so many different things you gotta be.
We were at 4:30. We were almost exclusively at 4:30. To me, I thought that's what I'm battling, because I felt like that was too late, right, to catch a flight out right after practice. Couldn't get a flight out of Memphis right after practice, right, for national level recruiting. Also, like, if we start filming at 4:30, you know how, you know, that's going. Then we got to do our calisthenics. Then by the time we get into our actual practice, right, we're getting late to where now, like, you know, we're into, like, now coach can't drive to, by the time he drives to see the high school game, you know what I mean, it's halftime, right? Like, so that's what and then study hall was before practice.
Yeah.
Like, do you guys do study hall before or after? Is there any generalization there? Or?
We try to do, so you know, certain guys have certain number of hours. So I'll have a mandatory study hall on Sunday, so they don't have to worry about it during the week. So that'll be 2 hours. And if they have 4 or 6 hours, it'll be broken out in hour segments, but I don't want them all in a study hall together. So they have it however it fits in their schedule. But then you got to look at, you know, where's that common time slot for lifting too? You know, I like our guys lifting as a team. And doing conditioning as a team. So, you know, there's so many different things, but if we can hop on a call if you want, you know, later on, just kind of go through a bunch of different things. But
see, and I'll tell you what, the fact, like, what blew my mind about what you just said was 50-minute classes versus whatever, 1 hour and something. I mean, I haven't been in school for so long. I have no idea. Like, this is the stuff that I don't even know about. Right. So I can't even make a recommendation. And so, but I'm a big on, like, optimization and efficiency. You know what I mean? So it's like trying to find, like, what's our sweet spot. I don't know that we're there yet.
Yeah. And, you know, even I've thought about it, and you guys obviously have great resources. So have you thought about, like, you guys have probably training table and obviously, you know, tons of refueling stations and things like that. You know, you could also do a team breakfast and then study hall and then practice. And now your guys have class the rest of the day. So you're getting them up at 8, their breakfast 8 to 9. Then their study hall 9 to 11. Then you go practice, you know, 11 to 2, and now they got their classes, you know, but I have to worry about when the dining hall closes, where they're going to get the meals, all that kind of stuff. So.
No, what you just said, you may have just, thank you. That's perfect.
Well, appreciate all you guys. I gotta run. The little one's getting hungry as my wife is too.
Top, is there a way for people to stay in touch with you?
Yeah, I mean, do you guys want me to type my stuff in over here, or what's best? I mean, you can give out my email address. Probably best one, COTOP33, COTOPP33 at Gmail. I'm on social media at Top33, at TOPP33. And then also my phone number, if anybody wants it, is 505-228-3939. Again, that's 505-228-3939. So, you know, I love just dialogue on this stuff, man. There's so much to learn. Which one, the phone number or what? You want me to type it into the chat over here? I can do that.
I typed your email in.
Cool. Phone number's there.
Thank you.
Social media is there. Yeah. There you go. Yeah. No, thank you guys. It's been good.
Top, Q, Russ. I appreciate you guys. Appreciate everybody joining in. We're gonna make this a weekly thing. Tuesdays at 10 a.m. So we'll get another one going next week. So appreciate you guys, and thanks guys for joining.
Yeah, thanks, Dave.
Thanks, guys. All right. Bye.
Thank you, guys.